Hi guys, a very good afternoon. Welcome to this new series from Juno School of Business, the learning series that we conduct every Saturday. And thank you so much for joining on a weekend for this initiative. We all know, that sales is one of the most rewarding careers one can undertake. And at Juno School, it is our endeavor that we want to shape the aspiring as well as the existing sales professionals who want to make it big in the sales careers. In fact, salespeople are the ones who've always drive business for every organization and significantly contribute to revenue generation. More so, it's a human desire for every human being to grow. And technically, what we say that if you're able to sell yourself to people, be it your ideas, your initiatives, the better you sell, the better we grow in life. Now, the irony here is that, sales is one of the skills which is hardly taught in any school in a structured manner. And at Juno School, it is our endeavor that we want to bridge this gap. Now, that could be through online sessions that we undertake with industry leaders that we do every Saturday, live activities and practice sessions, detailed lectures and conversations. And that is something that we've customized in an 8-week module, followed by placement support, wherein we tell you how to build fantastic resumes, how do you crack those interviews through role plays and mock interviews, and of course, how do you build a great LinkedIn profile. Now, these webinars that we conduct are a routine feature, and you can be part of them every Saturday from 12 to 1. So, what I would suggest is that if you want to gain insights on sales and you want to make it big, block your calendars every Saturday and we can connect between 12 to 1. You can always know more about us. You can ping us at junoschool.org, or you can always schedule a chat with us at hello@junoschool.org. Now, let me take this opportunity to welcome our guest for the day. Okay, so we have with us Shruti. Okay, Shruti
Hi
has been,
everyone. Hi. Great
so
connecting. Thanks, Himadri.
thanks, Shruti. So, Shruti, in her corporate journey, she's worked with organizations like IMJobs and Naukri.com, and I'm sure we all hop onto these platforms to search for jobs. So, technically, today you have an expert who understands the nuances of all these platforms, how they work, and she has in-depth knowledge about the recruiting industry. And I'm sure that she's the right person for all of us to guide us to how do we make an impressive resume. In this session today, Shruti will share her experience and insights on creating an impressive resume. And I think resume is the first step that we all take when we start searching for jobs. Thank you so much, Shruti, for squeezing out time for us and being part of the Juno community over the weekend.
My
On this
pleasure,
note,
Himadri. Thank you so much.
thanks. On this note, I request Shruti to take over and share her experiences with us. Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you. First of all, Himadri, thanks again. Thank you, Tarun, and thanks, Palak, and the entire Juno team for inviting me for such a topic wherein we discuss about resumes. Um, Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Saturday, sparing time. And, I will make this session as much interactive as possible. Won't really run you through slides, because I understand कि वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा boring हो जाता है. So, we'll make it very, very interactive. Please feel free to ask any questions. You can just put it on the chat box, or you can wait until the session gets over, or you can just ask it at any point in time. I would be happy to answer all your queries. Or we can also take that up post the session, all right. So, okay. So first of all, wanted to know from any one of you if you could tell me what is a resume. What is it all about? Like, what do we put in a resume? If anyone has any answer in their mind.
A reflection of yourself, the USPs
Okay.
that you have.
Yes, Brandon. That's Brandon, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Anything? I mean, you are absolutely correct. Anyone else have any other thoughts? Okay, fair enough. We'll slowly move ahead. So Himadri, if you can just quickly move to the next slide. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So you tell me, how does this resume look like? Is this a perfect resume? What do you think is good about it? What is not correct? Any one of you? Is
It's
this
too
a
much
good
of
resume or a bad? Like, is it
a
a
bad
thumb?
one,
Okay, why so? Why do you think it's a bad one?
because if you see in the resume as a whole,
Yeah.
primarily over here, the customer and the aspects of thing, the name is something that has not been put, and there's a lot of too much of graphics that's been added.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree that resume is something that has to be catchy, but there are other ways and alternative ways in order to put in data over here.
Right. Correct. Thanks. And also, I think Ayush has put something on the chat. Yes, it is a bad resume. It's a thumbs down because I feel that it's too fancy. The profile picture is not really a formal one, right? Okay, let's have a look at a couple of more resumes. Let's move to the next one. What about this one? Any thoughts? Any one of you?
Too much of text. It has to be a precise equivalent number of things.
Correct. Well, what I feel is, the text. It's I think the comic text. So usually it doesn't really go with a formal letter, right? So that's one thing that's negative about this resume. Okay, let's quickly have a look at a couple of 2, 3 more resumes, and then we'll quickly move on. What about this? It's a 3-page resume.
Mandatory if you have 10 years of experience, then 2-page works, or else 1 page.
Correct. I think it's Brandon who's been answering all the questions.
Yes, it's been thought by
Anyone
Himadri.
else who have thoughts? Yes, correct, Ayush. Thanks for the chat. Okay. I think we have one more example. All right. What about this one? Doesn't this look fine? Does this resume look perfect? All right. Rahul, thanks for your inputs. Well, the resume is fine. However, if you look at um, the way it's been put, it's not really. It's looking little, haywire here because एक proper line में नहीं है ये resume. तो वो distracting है थोड़ा सा. That's what I feel, right? There's one more resume, Himatri, if you can look at it. What about this one?
I think the font and the order
Correct. The
is a
font
miss
is
here.
really hazy, right? We really can't figure out what has been written here, right? So these are a couple of things that we really need to be careful while we sort of, create a resume, because I think a resume is basically a formal document. It's more of a formal document, wherein you put about yourself, what have you done, what have you achieved in your previous, experiences, what is your education qualification. So all of these details are more of formal details and formal letter about yourselves, right? So things
Right.
have to be well placed, the font size, the font style, the coloring, the text has to be more attractive. Attractive doesn't mean it has to be fancy and colorful, but it has to be easily, understandable to a recruiter, because we really need to understand it from a recruiter's perspective. Maybe a recruiter gets, I think, around 20, 30 CVs, resumes in a day, right? So they will not really have time to go through the entire resume of yours, and especially if it's a 2, 3 page resume, they will really not have the time to read through everything that you've written in a resume, right? So if we look at the third example that we had seen here, it's a 3-page resume, and maybe we as recruiters will not have all the time to go through the 3 pages, right? So it's better to keep it crisp and very, very clear, less text. You should only highlight your achievements, um, your current or previous employment. Basically it should cover around 10 years of your experience. Maybe within 10 years you change usually 4 jobs. I think that's enough. If it's a 15, 20 years of experience and there'll be around 7, 8 companies, recruiters will not really look at all of your experiences. They would focus mainly on the last 3 employers that you had worked with, right? So we'll quickly move to the next slides, and we'll understand what should a resume have. So these are the topics that we're going to discuss here. Of course, we are here to discuss about resumes. What should we focus, while we create a resume? What is it that we really need to avoid? And, what does a good resume really look like? So we'll look at a couple of examples as well. All right. All right. So let's see what a resume is. Okay. So it's basically, like I, have informed, it's more of a formal document, that a job seeker creates to showcase their qualification. What is it that they have achieved in maybe the last 10 years of their employment with different organizations. So this is a very, very simple way to put what a resume is. We don't really write about our family, or maybe we put a bit about our hobbies but not really in detail about it, because it's more of a formal. A recruiter might not want to know what are your hobbies as such, what is it that you do, but yeah, they are more interested in your professional achievements, right? Okay, so what's the purpose of a resume? Anyone of you would want to answer this? I think Brandon had already, sort of put it in a pretty simple language. But any one of you have any other thoughts? Why do you give a resume to a recruiter? Like when we go for an interview, why is it that everyone carries a resume with them? Anyone? Any thoughts? Yeah.
To give recruiter a glimpse of our skills and knowledge, and also abilities what we can do.
Correct, of course, that's correct, Rahul. So yeah, basically, through a resume we are trying to sell ourselves, as an employee for that particular company. Why am I the best for a particular role, right? So it has to be a perfect sales pitch about yourselves. All right. So that's a very simple way to put, because resume should not have everything. Like when we go for a sales call or we go and pitch a product to a company, we highlight what are the advantages of buying a particular product, right? Why should you opt for a particular product? Same way, through a resume we are basically trying to tell a recruiter, why am I the best fit for a particular role, right? So that should be your focus. I mean, you should only add those points that are relevant for that particular job. If a job is for, let's say, sales and marketing role, you would maybe focus on the resume about your achievements as a salesperson, right? You might not want to focus and write about maybe your finance skills, for example, because these guys are specifically looking for a salesperson. So our focus on the resume should be more about your sales skills, right? Right. If you could quickly move to the next slide and let's see what do we have. Okay, so what is a good and a bad resume? Any thoughts? Any thoughts through the examples that we saw? previously? And I think I've already mentioned a couple of examples. So anyone has any other views about it? I see a lot of participants. Diksha, Devaprama, do you have any thoughts about it? Sumit? Okay, fair enough. So a good resume is basically a well-structured and easy to read resume, which means when we saw those examples of bad resumes, they were more, cluttered. They were not systematically written. Maybe the font size, the font style, the coloring, the profile picture, the text, or maybe the content as well. If we look at the 3-page resume, I'm sure that resume could have been, made into a 1 or a 2-page resumes instead of a 3-page, right? So it has to be well structured, easy to read font size, and not messy and disorganized like the ones that we saw earlier. All right. It should not have any mistakes. So, for example, maybe grammatical errors, spell check. There has to be always a proofreading done for all your resumes. You may ask a friend or family to, sort of go through the resume once before you actually submit it to the recruiter, or maybe submit it in uploaded in any of the job portals, be it Naukri, be it Times Job, be it IIM Jobs, anywhere, right? So that's like really, really important that the grammatical and spelling mistakes have to be avoided in a resume. All right. It should also provide the recruiter the relevant information. So like I said, a resume should not have details that are not required for that particular role. You can customize your resumes basis the company that you're going for the interview. Maybe if it's a sales role, like I said, it has to be more sales oriented. If it's a finance role that you're applying for, it should highlight about your finance, achievements as a financial manager, or maybe a financial analyst, or anything to do with finance roles, right? It should not have details that are not required for this particular role that you have applied. You can definitely customize your resumes. If you're applying for 4 different jobs, you can change the resumes depending on the requirements. So maybe there can be an FMCG sales role that you're applying for. There can be, edutech company that you're applying for a sales position, or maybe any consulting organization. So it has to be changed as per the requirement of the company. And it's really important that you read the job description and make your resume basis the job description, right? I think a lot of us, we do not really read the job description. So it's really important before you actually create your resume, you have to understand what the job requires from you as a candidate, right? Okay, also the facts, the numbers, the figures that you have put in your resume has to be correct. If you have a sales achievement of 10 CR, it has to be 10 CR. It cannot be a 12 or a 13 CR or a 20 CR mentioned there, so it's really important to keep the facts, the numbers, your achievement, whatever your sales achievement numbers are, it should be appropriate and correct figures. There cannot be, you can't say a different figure on your resume and during the interview, the number should not change. That's really, really important, while you create a resume. What is there in your resume should be there while you're going for the interview, when you talk, right? Simple and easy to read font size and font style, of course, and the paper quality. So whenever you're going for a resume, for an interview, the quality of paper where you take a printout of your resume should be really, good. And you should always carry a copy of your resume while you go for an interview. It's not like you have it in your email and you ask the recruiter to take a printout of the resume. These are very small things, but really important while you go for an interview. Okay. Anyone has any other thoughts, anything that you want to add apart from whatever is mentioned in the slide? Please feel free, take the initiative, share your thoughts. I think Vivek, Wasim, Tushar, I would want to hear from some of the ladies who have joined in as well. Tanushri, Monica, any thoughts? Okay, I don't know who is this person. It's coming as iPhone. It's not really important to mention your academic scores. No one would want to really know about your 10th percentage or your 12th percentage. You can definitely mention about your qualification. What is it that you have done? Which college have you passed out from? But the percentage or your scores are not really important to put to be there in your resume. That can be avoided. Any other participants? Do you have any other questions? Or anything that you want to add apart from the ones that's mentioned here? Okay, Rakesh has a question. How important are the keywords and how to identify which ones to put in? So I think I've covered this where I talked about the job description. So you need to understand the job description and you have to put in the keywords, key skills accordingly. Like that's what I said. The resume should be customized as per the requirement of the JD or that particular job role. If someone's looking for a B2B sales, your resume should have that keyword. So whenever, usually recruiters, they do a search for resumes, they do a database search. If they put B2B sales as a keyword, your profile should be out there to the recruiter, right? So it's really important that the keywords are aligned to the job description. You should put as many keywords as possible so that your resume comes up in all the searches that a recruiter does on any of the platforms. I hope that answers your question, Rakesh. All right, then I think we can move to the next part. Let's see what's there. Okay. Why do you need a good resume? Okay, Himadri, can you just go back one slide? Okay, I would want to know from everyone here who have joined in, why is a good resume required? I think we discussed this, while we were discussing why is a resume required, but why is a good resume required? Why is it so important that you, have a specific kind of resume? Anyone?
Ma'am, it helps recruiters to find the best candidate, and maybe that is so.
All right, I think that's Rahul, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, definitely. It is required to find the best candidate for the recruiter, but why, as a candidate, you should have a good resume?
So that you can put your vision and mission along with the alignment of the company.
Right, correct. Thanks, Brandon, for being so active. All right, anyone else? I think I would want to hear from some new faces who have joined.
An impact on the employers.
Definitely. Thanks, Diksha. I think Tushar has said that it's required to reflect the personality of the candidate, of course. All right, so let's see what all do we have in our slide. Personal branding, I think most of you have, sort of told about it, a reflection of the candidature, personal branding. All right, Rakesh, so we will cover the recommended order of a structured resume in a while. Yeah. All right. Showcase your experiences, showcase your credentials, be ready for a job change, showcase your goals. Of course, so these are the most important, aspects why you should have a good resume, right? You should highlight what are your achievements, so that the recruiter knows what have you achieved as a salesperson, or maybe as a finance person, or maybe as an HR, any of the domain that you were switching your jobs to. So the recruiter should really understand why is this particular candidate a relevant candidate for a said role. Put in all your achievements so that you know that you stand out, because like I said, recruiter will not interview or look at just one resume. They would look at maybe 50 resumes, or sometimes maybe even more resumes in a day. So it's really important that you highlight all your achievements in such a way that it just strikes the recruiter at one go, and your resume is the one that they pick up. And the chances of getting called for an interview, the chances of getting shortlisted for a particular role becomes higher, which means that the chance of getting a job is higher. So it all comes down to the resume. What resume you build actually is a step closer to being shortlisted and being selected for a particular role, right? Anything else apart from this that you think is needed or required in a resume? Okay, let's see what we have in our next slide. All right, how to write a good resume. So tailor the contents of your resume to match the requirement of the job on offer. So I think we discussed this multiple times in the past 30 minutes. It has to be tailored basis the job requirement. Like I said, if it's a FMCG sales, it has to be more inclined. Your achievements, your keywords, your key skills have to be more inclined towards FMCG sales, right? Fonts, clear formatting of the resume is mandatory. And I think Rakesh had a brilliant question wherein, he had asked about the structure of the resume, right? So I think first of all, we can cover that here itself, though I have not really mentioned about the resume structure in detail in the presentation. So I think first of all, it should of course have your name, your contact details have to be correct. Ensure that you have your email ID and your phone number mentioned correctly, because that's most important. If your details are not correct, the recruiter would not be able to eventually reach out to you, right? So even if there's a relevant job opening, again, it's just that you are at a loss because, the recruiter is not even able to contact you either through phone, either through a call or through an email, right? Also, while you put in your experiences in a resume, it has to be in a reverse chronological order, which means your latest experience should be on top of the resume, on the top basically. So where am I currently working? So let's say I work with Naukri.com. So my current experience should be on top, and then comes my previous experience. All right. So it has to be in a reverse order, wherein you write more about your achievements with your current organization. And then, for your previous, you write a bit about what you have done. And as and when you keep going down the page and, your previous experiences keep adding in, you can just write like a one-liner about it. That's going to help you keep the resume short and crisp. Okay. And of course, at the end, you can, of course, mention about, what are your hobbies, maybe. Also, a suggestion, please do not add this line wherein we say references are available on request. I think recruiters would reach out to you directly in case, they need references or referrals from a candidate. So I think we should avoid mentioning this line in our resumes. And everyone knows that you will have friends, you will have colleagues, ex-colleagues, and they would let you know in case they need a reference, any 1-2 references that they need. They will reach out to you as per the requirement of the recruiter. So you really can avoid adding that line to, because I see a lot of people adding it at the end of the resume. References are available on request. I think that should be avoided. Also, one important thing is that you should level your, resume correctly. So let's say my name is Shruti, and I am saving the resume file with some other name. And when I send it to a recruiter, the recruiter is confused because he or she had interacted with me, but now the resume file is in a completely different name, right? So that's one negative, impact on the recruiter, right? And I think you should always try put in your resume in a PDF format rather than a Word document, because the font, the text, everything remains intact when it's a PDF. Because there are different, software everyone uses. So it's always important that your font size, formatting, everything remains intact. So recommending you to always save it in a PDF or share it in a PDF format to avoid such mishaps, basically, right? I think one more advantage of a PDF file is, a lot of companies now use ATS integration. What is ATS? It is an application tracking system, right? So there are different ATS tools like Greenhouse. Then we have Telio. So when you try and upload it in the ATS tool, PDF is always better because PDF is always read by all the ATS tools. Word document might create an issue, and your profile or your resume might not get uploaded, into the ATS tool. So these are some of the recommendations. I think, Rakesh, I hope I was able to answer your question. Okay. All right. So anyone has anything else to add? I would want to hear it from someone in the audience. Anything that you want to add on how to write a resume? Or anything maybe that I sort of might have not covered that you would want to tell everyone here? Okay, so Tushar has a question. Is it necessary to add a cover letter every time when resume is sent? Yes, you may add a cover letter. What is basically a cover letter is a document which talks about why are you suitable for this particular role, an ABC role? Because in the resume, all you mention is about what you have achieved, what are your experiences, your qualification, you know. But a cover letter actually is a document which tells a recruiter about the relevancy of the candidate. So if I am applying for a sales marketing role with an ABC organization, the cover letter should basically have um, maybe a 4 5 liner paragraph, a short crisp paragraph mentioning about why am I relevant for a sales and marketing role with this particular organization, right? So it is not a mandatory document to have. Basically, cover letter is not really mandatory. But of course, I think it's more required when you have um, more experience, um, maybe 7 to 10 years of plus experience. So you can definitely add a cover letter. But yeah, if your resume highlights all your skill sets, I think then you don't really need a cover letter. But again, it's a good to have document, not something that organizations really look for, you know. So you may avoid it. But yeah, if you have a really really strong resume, I think that solves the purpose. It's the most important document that recruiters look at while shortlisting, or while interviewing you for any role, right? All right. Any other questions with regards to what should be added in a resume, what to avoid, anything? Okay, let me pick a couple of examples of a perfect resume. So Himadri, if you could move to the next slide. Right. I hope this is visible to everyone. I'm sorry if it looks a little small with the font and everything. But what can anyone tell me? What do you think about this resume? Is this a good or a bad resume? And what is good or what is bad about it? Do you want to use this as a sample, while you create your own resume? Would anyone want to use this? Yeah. Who would want to use this as a sample resume? Okay, no one? All right. Well, I think this is a good resume because the font, the lining, the content, it's specific. It's not too much of text. It has everything that is required to understand this candidate, right? He or she has mentioned about what sort of experience he has, what are his maybe target achievements, and all of it, right? Okay, let's look at one more resume. I think we'll have 2 3 more resumes to look at. Okay, any suggestion about these ones, the left and the right? Are they both okay to go, or we would reject these resumes? Okay, Rohan, Siddharth, Tanushri, any thoughts about it? I would love to hear from you guys. All right, fine. So these are all perfect resumes. It doesn't have any coloring. It doesn't have fancy text. Also, if you look at these are one-page resumes. Even if these guys have changed 3 different companies, but they have managed to put in all their achievements, experiences, and kept it very crisp and short. But again, that does not mean there are any details missing here. They have only sort of mentioned what is required, right? Okay. Anyone has any questions? I think we can open it up to sort of a Q&A session. In case you want me to answer any of your queries, I would be happy
Ma'am,
to do that. Yeah, Rahul.
ma'am, if anybody don't have any work experience till date, how he will make a good resume? I mean to say he just completed his graduation or doing his post graduation, but don't have any work experience till date.
Yeah.
He only have his education background and maybe some skills that he has.
Okay. All right, Rahul. Thanks for the question. I think it's a brilliant and a very, very relevant question to ask. So you can, of course, add about your objective, your career objective. What is it that you want to achieve? And of course, you like if I look at this particular sample resume of Marvin, so you can talk about your career objective. What is it that you would want to achieve? What are the skills that you have? Even if you are a fresher, you might have certain skills. You might be great at sales. You might have done something in finance, so you might be aware of certain financial skills, right? So you can definitely highlight those skills. Of course, a recruiter knows that you are a fresher. Okay, so they would not expect you to put in your experiences, but you should definitely add your internship experience if you have any. So if you have done any internships of 3 months or 6 months during your college, during your MBA, you should definitely add your internship experiences. You can sort of put it in detail. What have you done? What have you achieved during your internship? And yeah, and then you talk about your skills. You talk about what is it that you want to achieve in the next 3 years, or maybe in the next 5 years. So yeah, you can sort of mention these details there. Of course, the recruiter will not look for a lengthy resume from a fresher, right? Because they are aware that a candidate is a fresher and will not have any experience. But you can definitely highlight what are your strengths.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi, Shruti.
Hi, Mahesh.
Yeah. So I would like to understand, should we use our professional photo in our resume or should we avoid it? I mean, there could be a positive or minus point for both of these factors. So I would like to understand from you.
Right. So in case you're adding it, it has to be a professional photo. Okay. So if we move on to I think the 6th slide, there was an example of a bad resume. So if you look at this guy's, profile picture, it's more of a fancy resume, right? Wherein you have, yeah, just look at this. This is not a profile picture that, we would want a candidate to put, right? It can be formally dressed, formal attire, um, which shows your face and without any shades, clean shaved maybe. For women, it can be more formally dressed, well, well dressed and everything. So that can definitely be added to the resume. But yeah, avoid adding random pictures. Maybe any party picture. I think that should be avoided. Yeah, Diksha, I think voluntary work can be added to the resume. But that's the last thing to be added, because if your resume is already lengthy enough, I think this can be avoided. But if you are a fresher, you just have worked with one organization, you can definitely add your work that you have done, maybe with an NGO. You can add that to the resume. Okay, good listening skill to be put in the resume. I think Rahul has a question. Uh, so see, if that's a skill, a recruiter is not going to look for it as a skill set while they search your resume. Okay. While we do a database search, or while we do a search for a resume, we basically look for skill sets. Maybe let's say sales as a skill set, marketing as a skill set, branding as a skill set. But we don't really look for a good listener as a skill set. I think a recruiter would be able to figure out if you are a good listener during the course of the interview, or there'll be a lot of activities, a lot of assignments that are given during interviews nowadays, right? Wherein you might have to listen to a video, and you have to pick up certain aspects from the video, or you have to highlight certain things in the video. So I think it can be avoided in the resume, because if I take your interview, I will be able to figure out if you're a good listener. So you don't really have to put that in your resume, because that would not really help you highlight your resume in any of the searches that a recruiter does, right? Okay, so Rakesh has a question. In my experience, just to add to what is already said, since we're moving into virtual or hybrid mode, interviews mostly are virtual. Having my picture gives us, okay. Also have your LinkedIn URL, have helps interviewers. Definitely, yes, you can add your social, media links, especially LinkedIn or Twitter is something that can be added. But yes, LinkedIn is, of course, if you have a LinkedIn profile, if you have a LinkedIn account, you should add that to your resume. Thank you, Rakesh, for highlighting this. It's one really important point. And I think Mahesh had a question wherein he was asking about the profile picture. So in case you put your LinkedIn URL, usually recruiters can, of course, view your LinkedIn profile picture. Okay, I think Rakesh has a question. Didn't see a dedicated section for certifications and training. Where do you recommend to add them? You can, of course, add them you add your experiences. So you can definitely have, a paragraph about your experiences. I think, Himadri, if we go to around the 9th or the 10th slide, where we had the examples of good resumes, I think we would be able to view it there. And I think we have to zoom it out a bit. I think the next one. Yeah. Yeah. So it can be anywhere, down here. If you look at the right-hand side resume. So below the education bit. So basically, right after your experiences, you can, of course, add any certification or training courses that you have done. And I think to add certification courses that are relevant to that specific role is more important rather than adding everything, because while we work, we do a lot of certification courses. But, as a salesperson, I think if you're going for an interview, your certification course with Juno is the best to highlight, because you're doing a sales related training course here with Juno. So it's, of course, definitely important to highlight your, the course that you've taken with Juno. So you can tweak it required basis the requirement of the role. Okay, so any other questions, any recommendations? Rakesh, do you have any other thoughts? Anything? Vivek, Tushar, Siddharth?
Hi, Shruti.
Hi, Rohan.
Yeah, I have a question related to the ATS. Can you just tell me once more, because I haven't listened properly.
Could you repeat that? I really couldn't understand.
Can you just tell me? Can you just tell me something else? The ATS tool.
Mm-hmm.
Once more.
So if you connect the ATS with the resume, something that I was highlighting. So what is ATS? ATS is basically the application tracking system. So it's a tool that different organizations use, and there are multiple such ATS tools that we have. There's an ATS tool by IBM, which is called Connexa. There's Greenhouse, there's Telio. There are a lot of such tools, okay? So a lot of these corporates, they use ATS. So if you try and apply to a particular job, are you experienced, Rohan? Do you have any work-ins?
Yeah, some sort of experience I have.
Okay. So if you try and apply to a particular role, let's say on IIM jobs, or you go to Naukri, or you go to Times Job, any of these job boards, a lot of times while you apply, it redirects you to the company careers page, right? I'm not sure if you've seen that, but yeah, with a lot of big corporates, it happens. So the moment you go there, it's basically the ATS tool that's integrated, and your CV would land on that particular tool. So all the applications that this particular organization would receive would be intact, and it'll be like a bigger database for them. They can reach out to you later on in case there's any relevant role wherein you might not be suitable for an ABC role, but you might be suitable for an XYZ role, So, so if you talk about the resume with regards to ATS, so ATS tools usually, they pick up PDF resumes easily. The PDF as in the PDF resumes, not the Word documents of resumes. That's where I highlighted that, your resume should be in a PDF format rather than in a Word document. Because Word documents, when it goes to the ATS, the formatting, the size, the font, they might change, and it might just look very messy. So in case, if you look at what's shared in the screen by Himadri, so if it's a PDF, it will show to the recruiter the same way it's here. But if it's a Word document, there can be lining issues, there can be issues with the alignment, with the font, because of different softwares that are being used. Like I said, ATS as a tool has different types of integrations. So to avoid any, lining issues, font issues, it should always be in a PDF format.
Thanks, Shruti.
Okay, you're welcome. I think we can pick up one more question before we end the session.
Hello. Hi, Shruti. So basically, as I can sense, there are two formats. One is a single column resume, another one is a 2-column resume.
Mm-hmm. So this is, Mahesh, is just a
resume, right? I would like to understand which.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. Okay. So there could be two format. One is a single column resume. Another one is a two column resume, right? Which should we go for, and which is preferable in order to cruise smoothly in an ATS?
So ATS is not about your two column resume or one column resume. So basically, why I highlighted ATS is because of the PDF and the Word doc issue. ATS has nothing to do with the size of the resume, or maybe two column or a single column resume. Okay, but if you ask me, Mahesh, which one would I prefer as a resume? I think both of them look perfectly fine. And if it's with regards to ATS, then I think Himadri will have to schedule a session for ATS and resumes.
Sure, Shruti. Yeah, makes sense.
All right. Any last question? We have 3 more minutes.
Guys, I'm sure you would have a lot of questions or a lot of finer details that you would want to check. How do you go about doing that on your resume? So why don't you leverage and ask Shruti as many questions or whatever small questions you have around resumes?
In case also, if you don't have any questions at the moment, and you have any doubts, anything that you want to ask later, I think you can just drop in a note to Himadri, and Himadri can sort of
Shruti,
yeah.
what about the video resume as compared to the text? I mean, hard copy.
Okay, I think with the virtual interviews being in place because of COVID, virtual resumes have actually picked up. They are an important aspect when you talk about resumes and virtual and video resumes as such. But I think while you prepare a video resume, you will only be able to highlight certain things. That's what I feel personally. Though video resumes have come up, and people have everyone started, all job portals have started having video resumes or audio resumes at least. But you really can't sort of highlight certain things in a video resume the way you can do it in a Word document of a resume. I think we can have another call wherein we just pick up. We have someone who's an expert with regards to video resume, and he or she can sort of, I think, help you understand why is a video resume important. Yeah.
So that means, Shruti, you want to say like in video resume, it will not cover all the things which you want to express about ourselves as a candidate, which the text can, right?
Yeah. But video resumes also have advantages because in a video resume, the recruiter can figure out your comm skills. That's one benefit, of course, when you have a video resume. They understand your personality while you talk, while you carry yourself. So there are, of course, a lot of advantages of video resumes. But if we look at the traditional way, that's more of the Word resume, more of a printed resume, or something that we have discussed today. You again have an advantage here also. wherein you can highlight a lot of things. But while you prepare a video resume, maybe it's going to be around 30 minutes if you have to talk everything about yourselves. And I feel a recruiter might not have 20 to 30 minutes to listen or to see you talk about, what you have achieved, what all experiences do you have, right? So there are, of course, negatives and positives of both sides. Um, but but yeah, I was here basically to discuss about resume building, and I think we can definitely try and have someone who's an expert with regards to video resumes to maybe answer your queries related to it, right?
Questions? Okay, Shruti, thank you so much. And I think, this was one of the insightful sessions that we've had in our learning series.
My
And-
pleasure, Himadri. Thanks for
And I think,
having me.
the best part is that resume is something that we all, indulge in when we look out for a job. And the minutest details around the do's and don'ts that you've shared, I'm sure this will help all of us in making those real-time modifications to our resumes. And thank you so much, others, for joining in on a Saturday. Please feel free to learn more and write to us for more clarity at hello@junoschool.org. And as I mentioned that, this is a platform wherein we want to help aspiring salespeople and people who are already in the profession of sales, how to sharpen those existing selling skills. And not to forget, the next Saturday, which is the 18th, we would have an interesting session on how to navigate complex enterprise sales. I'm sure people in the forum, either they aspire to be in enterprise sales or they're already part of enterprise sales of different organizations. So don't forget to register for the next webinar coming Saturday. Sunny is going to take us through this journey about enterprise sales. And you can go to the link on the chat boxes, wherein you can follow us on Insta, LinkedIn. On Insta, we started sharing a lot of reels around quick sales tips, real life case studies for big brands. And any queries, please feel free to connect with us, right? Thank you so much, Shruti, once again for being part of our community.
Thank you, Madhuri, and thanks, Juno School, for having me here. And thanks all the participants, for your time on a Saturday.
Okay, guys, thank you so much, and see you soon next Saturday. Thank you for joining in.